Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The landscape of the teams in the Major 3 qualifiers is shaping up nicely, and Shotzzy has revealed exactly why himself and Huke have turned up over the last couple of days, giving a lot of credit to Ghosty, the way he is currently leading the team, but also Scump launching his own flank competitor with a post-game show of his own. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Unfortunately, we've got to discuss this series first of all, or fortunately, depending on your perspective. This was completely the blurred up bowl, the battle of the burgers. This was just phenomenal to watch actually, because the entertainment to be had at times of watching two teams that aren't particularly good battle it out to try and lose was incredible. And yeah, okay, game 1 London won, fair play. Scraps had a good map here. Scraps had a phenomenal series here actually. Asim had a rough go of things this series. I know that he was unwell. You could tell he was feeling awful when you looked at the cameras. He had like some ice pack on, and like he was obviously not doing so well, but his teammates clutched up for him. Paulix on the SMG now, it seems more often than not actually. He might be working as well for London quite well. But this game too, man, London should have probably, I mean, I know Nasty tweeted after this series they probably should have 3-0'd this. And certainly this game too, I mean, the 1v4, we looked at it briefly last night, but the fact that they managed to throw this away was ridiculous. They ended up losing this one in a pretty tight affair. Scraps to clutch a 1v2, but if they don't lose this round to exceed, they probably find a way to win this map. And then another classic trademark London collapse here. I thought this is funny. So it was 2-0 to London here in the Control on Hotel. Los Angeles Guerrillas win this round 3. They take it to round 5. And London's round 5 record, according to the stats, was 0-6, I think. And then, or maybe 0-7, and they lost another one. Like, they just don't win round 5s of Control. Their ice is, it's funny really, because their ice was nowhere apart from the very final round of this series, to be honest. So London somehow lose this advantage. They go down 2-1. They do win the game 4, though, to take it to an absolute thriller game 5 round 11. So, like, I don't think we'd even had a game 5 all weekends. So for it to be two of the worst teams in the entire league to somehow go the distance was actually pretty entertaining. And I thought this was a remarkable 1v1 actually. So Assault versus Nasty. This was, I know people were saying that kind of Nasty got Formal's trade, because if you guys know about the history of game 5 round 11s in Call of Duty, you might well know about the Assault versus Formal one from the Black Ops 3 World Championship all those years ago, where Assault took down Formal to knock them out of the World Championship at the time. This another Assault game 5 round 11 1v1. Nasty hits this stun and it actually connects there, and Nasty makes a really ballsy play to just go and straight up chow this and read the re-aggression from Assault. Like, that was a really good play from Nasty actually to read that one. He didn't have the greatest stats this series compared to what Nasty's been doing recently, but he made a crucial play to win them the series. Even Gunler says this might actually be the worst series I've ever watched. So, you know, worst or best depending on your perspective, I guess. Asim says, yeah, never played that sick in my life, and these were the overall numbers. Asim, like, he got ultra fried here, but Scraps had a big series. Nasty obviously clutched up in that final round. And yeah, across the board here for Los Angeles Guerrillas, they were playing, of course, from the Los Angeles Thieves compounds because they had some power issues they had to move over. But yeah, I don't know, like, both these teams are terrible, right? But also, it's strange to me the fact that Arcitys looks like, you know, it's not like Arcitys is looking like a superstar on this team by any means. He's statistically been one of their worst players. So he's not exactly maintaining his stock in a particularly good spot now, especially because LAG, we know they're going to try and sell their organization, shut down, whatever the case is. And we know that Arcitys wants to go to OpTic. He wanted to. They couldn't make it happen earlier in the season. There is maybe a spot in Ghosty's spot right now available next season, depending on what changes they might make. But Arcitys got to play better to prove that he's deserving of a chance like that, I would imagine, again at this point, especially the way that OpTic played last night up against the Minnesota Rokkr. So difficult to rate this series out of 10, but a pretty remarkable one. Even as Arcitys says, didn't got the comfy setup. So Envoy, of course, Arcitys was playing an Envoy setup. My loud equalization call, she said, turn it back on. So maybe they needed that this series if they wanted to win. But they had like 8 of the 11 first bloods in the game file. Like, they really should have won it, but London somehow get the job done. Now, this was another big story of last night, which was revealed just when the final match was concluding from Scump. The breakdown. So this is, of course, on the 5th of March. So after next weekend of matches, they're going to start a new podcast with, clearly, Scump and Methods. So, I mean, look at these guys go. It's actually pretty entertaining, this announcement video they did. I know Methods was teasing it on stream last night, saying, like, think Marvel and all this. He was kind of going for this, like, post-credit scene, I guess, idea where they have something like this. But, yeah, what do you guys think about this? I thought it was only a matter of time until, like, Scump decided that some sort of, you know, post-game show was the way to go. Like, obviously, the flank has been fantastic for Call of Duty, and I really enjoyed the majority of episodes that I actually watched. But Scump's watch party is, of course, significantly bigger than what they've got going on at the flank because he's Scump, and therefore there was an argument to say, well, why doesn't Scump have his own post-game show of some sort, and it could, you know, potentially blow the flank out of the water. I'm sure that Hex was in Scump's ear saying, look, maybe you should consider this. Now, obviously, there was some that said, well, Scump should respect the flank and what they've done and not do a post-game show, but at the end of the day, everyone can eat to a certain extent, and Scump's decided, well, what about with methods we do something called the breakdown? So this is, you know, it's going to be a show clearly analysing the matches in a post-game show type manner. Now, this might not be done all the time. It might be done, you know, because of course this is clearly a one-off, right, on the Sunday, so they're going to try it on the Sunday rather than doing it every day. And you guys can tell here from the logo, right, on Scump's left-hand side, and also with the kind of map design here on the right, that it's maybe going to be a more analytical, educational show, because that's why I really like watching Scump's watch party, is that you actually learn an awful lot about the game, the way that Scump and Methods talk about it being pros that have played competitive COD at this level in this game until very recently. So, you know, maybe it's going to be a more educational side. Now, the issue that I kind of find is that back in the Cold War days with the flank, it was very analytical, educational, and, you know, it was really interesting about the state of the game and ideas and all this type of stuff. Nowadays, the game, like, you know, there's only so many times you can discuss fortress control in an analytical manner. Like, it doesn't really work at the end of the day. The flank has pivoted, I think, and I think intelligently so, more to the entertainment side. Sometimes that goes too far, sometimes it doesn't. But if Scump and Methods want to focus here on this kind of podcast post-game show on purely the actual analysis behind the game, I don't know if that's going to be as entertaining as it could be with another approach. But still, it's indicative of Scump's intention here to have some sort of post-game show that will inevitably compete with the flank in some degree or another. Now, of course, it's not going to be every day. It's going to be on the final, well, on the Sunday of next weekend of qualifiers. Presumably, they do something similar after the major, for example. So it might be a one-off type thing. Even Aches commented on this actually during when it was kind of announced last night, suggesting that, oh yeah, you know, it's basically a reverse sweep knockoff, because reverse sweep is a similar thing they do with Parasite and Aches over at Deserto, and it's kind of like a one thing that they do on a Sunday after the matches and stuff to break down what happened that week. And maybe that's what this is going to become. So I don't know what you guys think about this. I know there's some controversy about whether Scump should have done this, or whether he should have allowed the flank to be its own thing, or whatever the case is. But yeah, clearly Scump's taking another step in the content side. I think it's good for everyone, to be honest, to have new content in the space. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this, and whether what it's going to be for their first episode is what it turns out to be in a couple of months' time when they continue it. And yeah, it's probably not going to be an everyday post-game show type thing like the flank is, but you know, it might get there over time. I guess we'll see. It's an interesting start. I like the jackets they put on as well to make it look even better. And just to mention actually some of the crazy numbers I thought the Brian Stats pointed out here from Scump's average viewership for the first 10 videos of a new COD. The highest he got was in Black Ops 3 at 553,000 average over his first 10 videos. World War II was remarkably high, I thought. Then Modern Warfare 2019, Black Ops 4, etc, etc. Even Modern Warfare 2 wasn't too bad, the most recent one. Vanguard was quite lower here. Black Ops 2, of course, was, I guess, the lowest of all, but of course, in those days, like, Scump was just starting out. So, yeah, it just goes to show what an absolute content powerhouse Scump is. We've seen it on Twitch, and it did feel like it was a matter of time until Scump decided to do something with regard to, you know, like a post-match show, because, you know, he's got the watch party now. Why not bring something else into the mix and maybe compete a bit with the flank for the kind of post-game viewership, right? It's going to be pretty interesting to see how that whole dynamic plays out, especially with Aches being involved with the flank, and, you know, he has his certain perspectives on OpTic, I guess you could say at the very least. Now, speaking of OpTic, their series last night against Rokkr was very fast. There's a question as to say, was it Rokkr just being terrible, which I think was a large part of this. I'm pretty sure in Rokkr's last 5 series, they've been 3-0'd like 3 of the 5 times, which isn't great at all, and they're on a big losing slide at the moment. Now, OpTic took them down without too much difficulty. Game 1, Game 2 certainly. Game 3 was Fortress. It went round 5, but OpTic went on offense and took it down, so impressive work from them. And Shotzzy, after the fact, was discussing how Ghosty has affected this team in a positive way, because Huke especially, his numbers lately have been absurd. He's been stepping up big time for the team. Him and Shotzzy. Huke and Shotzzy this stage have something like a 1.15 and a 1.18 between them. Those are about the numbers for the SMGs. The AIs haven't done that much, and Dashy hasn't had to do that much, but OpTic are still sitting 2-1 in a relatively good spot to go into the home major, probably in the winners bracket. They play New York, they play FaZe on the final weekends. Those are some seriously big tests, I think, for this team, but the SMGs have been looking very good. There's a question as to whether Dashy is getting hindered by the way Ghosty plays, but last night in the listen-ins, I think you could tell that Ghosty was doing a lot from the kind of the in-game leading standpoint, was directing his team around. Shotzzy didn't have to communicate, didn't have to do anything. The guy could just run around and have a 2KD and just do whatever he wanted, and clearly Ghosty is, well, enabling that to a certain extent, at least in Shotzy's opinion.
Shotzzy, I want to talk about about the rematch here because, of course, you had a new fourth in this series, but last time you played Rokkr, you and Huke got shut down. You had a .67 in that series. Today, you come in, you drop a 1.8 in our hard points, 2-something in our search and destroys. What was different about the rematch?
I feel like I'm comfortable now. I guess you could say in terms of like the way I am on the team. I feel like, you know, when we had Ender on board, I felt like I was always trying to, you know, try to get everyone on the same page in terms of like, you know, make sure everyone's on point. Like, yo, let's do this. And, you know, ever since we brought Dan on board, you know, he's allowed me to play my game and I could kind of just do whatever I want. I mean, I'm not whatever I want, but like, you know what I mean? But yeah, Dan kind of just allows us to, you know, play like us. So.
Shotzzy can do Shotzzy things. That makes sense, yeah.
So these were the numbers from that last night's series, right? And Ghosty and Dashy had the least kills on the team. And Ghosty, you know, look, he likes to sit in the hill, likes to direct the troops, and that can work quite well for a team with all the talent that this team has. Dashy had a good series of 1.3, but so far hasn't quite done so much compared to the SMGs on this roster, also in terms of the slaying department as well. So yeah, is this just Rokkr being bad, or is this actually Dan Ghosty finally showing what he was brought into this team to do and being able to enable the rest of the team to have good success? Because there was some questions whether the Ghosty Dashy AR dynamic can really work as a duo. This series it certainly did, but yeah, I want to see what happens when they play New York, what happens when they play FaZe, to see if this is a consistent trend. But Shotzzy seems very happy with the way that Ghosty has been brought in and what he's been able to achieve so far. Same with Huke. I mean, ever since Ghosty's been in, Huke's been a different level player, whether that's Huke individually, whether that's the gyro aim, whatever it is, but it's working out for them, right? And so far they're 2-1. Okay, this was the most impressive series they played so far, and it doesn't get easier for them, but they're sitting currently 7th in the standings, I guess, only a 6-5 win-loss, so it's not guaranteed, but with 2 wins, as long as they don't get bodied next week, and if they win one of their series, of course, up against New York or FaZe, they will be fine, and I guess they're 7th in large part because they've just played 3 series. 3 of these teams at 3-1 have played 4 series already, but these 3 teams should be good to go through to the winners bracket regardless. Rokkr are going to be in losers, Guerrillas are going to be losers, Mutineers are going to be in losers, they're 4 in 10 map counts, that's pretty much like, I don't really think they can overturn that one. And then you would imagine that either Ravens or Legion are going to be in losers. So that puts OpTic in a position where they're fine, right? They should be okay regardless, as long as they take a good few maps off Subliners and FaZe, even if they don't win both series. If they go game 5 in both of them, their map count should be good enough to qualify them for the winners bracket regardless. So yeah, I think they're in a decent spot, but I think the big test is to come because Rokkr, they've fallen off a cliff. I mean, they're 2-9 map count here. Like, you know, that series result is not, okay, you guys can't even really see it, but there you go. 2-9 map count for Rokkr is, you know, not particularly impressive lately. So it's not like OpTic have taken down a juggernaut, but I think next weekend is where we're really going to start to see whether this Dan Ghosty move can work out, because they'll have played a few games at that point. They're going into a massive home major in Texas, and they've got 2 games against the 2 champions of the season so far to prove whether that can work out. So very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Wait, I don't think this is a post game. Why does it say 3-5? That's next Sunday.
They're only doing it 1 day a week.
They're doing it 1 day a week?
That's fire.
That was the best series of the year, bro.
I mean, that sounds okay, but I would way rather tune into someone who's doing it 4 days a week. What do you guys think?
No, I think there's enough for everybody to tune into everything, Pat.
I mean, I'm just saying me personally what I would watch.
Nah, I think you could watch everything.
Absolutely.
You personally, you would watch yourself. I can't believe it.
You watch everything, bro. There's room for everybody. It's whatever people want to watch.
1 day a week, that just sounds like a reverse sweep copy. I'm just saying.
Dude, it's a post-game podcast, bro. It's not like it's like rocket science.
But we're already doing that over on the reverse sweep 1 day a week.